Dealing with emotional changes after encephalitis. Module Introduction. Your life may have changed after encephalitis, and you or the people around you may have noticed that you think, feel, and act differently. It is very common to feel low or anxious, and in fact, around 1 in 5 people will have these types of feelings in their lifetimes. These types of feelings are particularly common in life after encephalitis. Feelings of grief and hopelessness can be part of the process of adjusting to the challenges you face. If you have felt this way, you are not alone. The information in this module will help you to learn more about the types of changes to emotions and behaviour that can happen in life after encephalitis. Learn more about why these changes happen. Learn to notice the changes. Learn some tips to manage the changes. Objective 1. Learn more about the types of changes to emotions and behaviour that can happen in life after encephalitis. Types of changes in emotions and behaviour. After encephalitis, people can experience various emotional changes, from changes in mood, personality, anger, anxiety, and frustration, to depression, impulsivity, aggression, and disinhibition. Have you noticed any changes in the following areas? Feeling low in mood or depressed, feeling frustrated and losing your temper more easily, feeling anxious or worried, feeling that your emotions are up and down, doing and saying things that you do not mean to, feeling different about yourself. Objective 2. Learn more about why these changes happen. Understanding these changes. Encephalitis can change how you think and feel in 2 main ways: by affecting your brain and how it controls emotions, and by affecting your emotions directly. By affecting your brain and how it controls emotions. Your brain helps you to notice and understand emotions in other people, to manage and control your own emotions. Encephalitis can cause changes that make these skills more difficult. One example of this is what we call mood lability. You might have noticed that your emotions go up and down between extremes. This can mean that you might express emotions that do not match the situation. For example, laughing when you hear something sad. By affecting your emotions directly. Encephalitis can be a difficult experience. Recovering from encephalitis might include coping with the emotional impact of it on your life, getting used to new ways of doing things, feeling differently about yourself. These experiences can all impact on your emotions, leading to feelings of low mood, anxiety, frustration, or low self-esteem. Steps to managing emotions and behaviour. Notice and identify the triggers for difficult thoughts, emotions, and behaviour. Use strategies to manage the feelings. Reflect on the situation and what you have learned from it. Objective 3. Learn to notice the changes. Knowing your triggers. It can be helpful to notice what causes you to feel frustrated, sad, or anxious. For example, not being able to walk independently might make you feel frustrated and sad, and that things are hopeless. This is called a trigger. What are the types of trigger that you notice impact your emotion? Now that you have identified the types of trigger which impact your emotions, it can be helpful to understand what happens in situations where your emotions change. It is helpful to think about your thoughts, what I think, emotions, what I feel, behavior, what I do, physical symptoms, how my body feels. Thoughts, what went through my mind. How you think about yourself or a situation can impact how you feel and what you do. There are 2 parts to understanding how your thoughts can impact how you feel and behave. 1. Noticing negative thoughts that pop into your mind. And 2. Noticing that you might decide what will happen before it already has. This is called a belief or prediction. Negative thoughts. You might notice that sometimes thoughts pop into your mind that seem like they may be true. These thoughts like company and can often lead to a chain of related thoughts that make you feel low or anxious. For example, there might be a number of things that are more tricky for you to do since having encephalitis, and you might notice that you think thoughts, "I miss the old me," or "I'm useless now," when confronted by a task that is harder than you expected it to be. This kind of thought might make you feel anxious, sad, disappointed in yourself, and frustrated. These feelings are a common part of the grief that you might feel after recovering from encephalitis. You might then decide to not do the task or might rush it, which means that you do not complete it the way you would like to. It might be helpful to think of the thought, "I'm useless," as an annoying gnat, because it is a negative, automatic thought. It does not make you feel good about yourself or the situation. It pops into your mind on its own without warning, and it is a thought in your mind. Negative thoughts can impact how your emotions and how we feel about ourselves. Noticing and managing negative thoughts can be tricky, and it takes a lot of practice. It is important to not be too hard on yourself if you cannot manage this all of the time. It can be helpful to choose specific types of thoughts as a starting point to make practicing this skill manageable. If you are struggling to identify your thoughts, then finding a psychologist or therapist that can help you notice and manage your gnats might be a helpful starting point. Thoughts. What went through my mind? It can be helpful to keep a thought diary of the types of negative thoughts that pop into your mind. This can help you to notice the thoughts so that you can start to think more about whether they are realistic or true. It can be helpful to look for patterns in your thoughts so that you can notice the types of situations that these impact you. What kind of negative automatic thoughts have you noticed? It might be tricky to notice negative thoughts if you're feeling overwhelmed by emotions, or there may be so many thoughts going through your mind that it's difficult to notice them. The more you try to focus on understanding your thoughts, the more aware of them you will become. You might notice that your mind races or that your thoughts get stuck in a cycle that feels difficult to break away from. Negative thinking can keep us stuck in how we feel and react to our triggers. For example, think of a recent situation that has made you feel anxious, frustrated, or low in mood. Let's think about how your thoughts, emotions, behaviour, and physical feelings in your body work together in this situation. Objective 4. Learn some tips to manage the changes. Changes in your body. When we feel frustrated, low, or anxious, we might notice changes in our body, such as a racing heart, faster breathing, sweating, butterflies in your tummy, headaches, or dizziness. This is because we respond to stress by our body releasing hormones into our bloodstream as part of the stress response, leading to some or all of the symptoms described. Managing our emotions, thoughts, and behavior can help to lessen these feelings in the body. Top tips for managing emotions. Taking a break or time out from whatever is making us feel anxious, frustrated, or low. This helps us reset and calm down. Distracting yourself from a trigger can be a helpful way of preventing stress from feeling that it is overwhelming you. You might decide to call a friend, read a book, or watch a television show that you enjoy. We often focus on our thoughts and feelings when we are in a highly emotional state, and paying attention to this can make it feel worse. Shifting your attention to the outside world can be a helpful way of refocusing you. A technique called the five senses, in which you focus on 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste, might be a helpful approach. Be kind to yourself. Emotions can feel horrid, but they do come and go. Noticing your emotions, practicing self-care, and allowing yourself time to feel better is important. Count to 10. We often jump to conclusions or make up our minds too quickly about things, which can make us feel worse about a situation. Counting to 10 and rethinking can be a helpful way of providing yourself time to think more clearly about how you are feeling. Breathe. Take 3 slow, deep breaths, letting the belly fill with air and then exhaling so that the air leaves the stomach. You should notice your abdomen move up and down rather than your shoulders. Top tips to manage thoughts are: notice when you are thinking negatively about yourself or a situation. Challenge the thought. Is this fair on you? Would a friend agree with you? Would you tell the small child you once were the same thing? Do you have any evidence that your negative thought is correct? What is the alternative evidence that is not correct? Are you falling into a thinking trap, such as blowing things out of proportion or seeing things in black and white, where you focus too much on the negative instead of the positive? Find an alternative thought. You've probably realized that you are being hard on yourself or that your negative thoughts might be invalid. Look for a more balanced alternative. For example, instead of "I'm useless because I cannot make myself a meal," an alternative thought might be, "I will work on making a meal, and this might be easier in future. I can do lots of things like making snacks or a cup of tea, so I'm not useless." Focus on the things you can do and attempt to do these. If you need to break down challenges to make them more manageable, then this shows great problem-solving skills. Behavioral changes as a result of emotional changes. When we feel anxious, sad, or angry, we might behave in ways that are different to our everyday behavior, including lashing out, this might be verbal or physical, avoiding situations, leaving situations, looking or asking for reassurance from others or the internet, finding ways of coping that make us feel safe or less emotional. For example, if you feel anxious about having an illness, you might spend time on the internet searching your symptom, or you might avoid having discussions about an illness with others. Top tips for managing behavior. Looking for reassurance or using unhelpful coping strategies can help fix the emotion in the short term, but does not allow us the opportunity to feel the emotion and learn to manage this more effectively in the long term. It can be helpful to take a break to cool down when feeling anxious, frustrated, or low. Perhaps get some fresh air and take some deep breaths. Returning to the task and setting yourself a realistic goal to achieve at least part of this will allow you to begin to manage your worries or mood and provide a sense of achievement. Managing emotions, thoughts, and behavior after encephalitis. You have now learned more about tips to manage emotions, thoughts, and behavior. These strategies can be tricky at the best of times, but even harder when you've had a brain injury because of encephalitis. This can be for a number of reasons. For example, you might struggle with memory difficulties, which might make it difficult for you to remember what your thoughts were or the strategies to manage these. If you are noticing that you need some help with these skills, then accessing psychological support can assist you in this process. Resources for more information or support. The Encephalitis Society website has lots of information about support. You can contact them to request support at www.encephalitis.info/support or email support@encephalitis.info or call on +440 165 369 9599. If you would like to access psychological services, depending on where you live, your GP/family doctor should be able to arrange for you to be referred. If you are having thoughts that you might want to harm yourself, end your life, or harm others, then it is important that you access support immediately. If the situation is urgent, you should dial 999 and ask for an ambulance or drop in as soon as possible to your local accident and emergency department. Summary of key learning objectives. In this module, you have learned more about types of changes in emotions, thoughts, and behavior that can happen in life after encephalitis. You have also learned more about why these changes happen. You have learned about triggers for difficult thoughts, emotions, and behavior, and to notice these changes. You have learned some tips to manage the changes.